Hey guys, welcome to Cars and Health Bars. I want to first start off by wishing everyone a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. Please be safe. There's a lot of silly people on the road this time of year. But this, of course, was going to be our Christmas episode, but unfortunately it coincided with our anniversary episode. That is right. As of a few days ago, we have been doing the Cars and Health Bars podcast for 1 year. So, as a anniversary, we are going to be revisiting our original podcast where we talked about LS versus Coyote. On today's episode, we'll be debating, though, Jordan, our expert LS builder, versus Tyler Metters, previously on the show, a Ford technician and a on-the-side Coyote builder. This is a very interesting interview. You're going to want to listen to it all the way through. And with that being said, guys, let's get right into it. Hey guys, I just wanted to jump in here one more time before the episode starts and just let you know that I appreciate you guys from the bottom of my heart, from the bottom of all our guests' heart, for being a part of this podcast. You listening is what's keeping this thing going. It's so important that you guys are here listening to us, and I just cannot believe that we've been doing this for a year. And I can't wait to see how many more years are here to come. We cannot thank you guys so much for listening to our episodes and checking us out on social media, all that good stuff. You guys literally are the coal that is keeping this train chooching along. And with that being said, guys, let's get right into this debate. So, with this being our anniversary episode of when we started the podcast back in 2022, we would be insane to not revisit our original episode, which is better, LS versus Coyote. And instead of doing it like we did last time, we're going to have a little bit of a debate here with me mediating. Of course, we have Jordan, our LS builder, LTLS builder, and returning guest, we have Tyler Metters of Ford, Ford dealership. Ford. But, he's more than just your good old Ford dealership boy. This guy is, he's had his hands in a lot of Coyotes and owns one himself, if you didn't know. S550, very nice car. So, I guess we can go ahead and jump right into it. So, I guess we could kind of jump around the question and then maybe meet it back in the middle. But I took a poll on our Snapchat. If you want to participate in those, of course, follow the podcast Snapchat. But one of the first things that I was brought up to was I had a Coyote guy talking about LS lifters. And I'll go ahead and give Tyler the chance here to give his spiel and give Jordan the chance to rebuttal.
Yeah, when they start talking about MT82 problems and the Coyote tick and everything else, I just get a little frustrated with it. And I'm like, don't talk to me if you are ticking more than a kid with Tourette's. Like, I mean, your cam is literally being ate by your lifter right now. It's like a hungry fat kid, dude.
Okay. Jordan? Tyler?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you wanted to call me in. So, the only problem I got with people saying, oh, LS lifter go bad, oh my God, is, look, Coyote timing components be going bad. Oil pump gears, that's your lifter. Once you fix them, it's both are non-problematic after the fix. So, I don't consider that to be too much of a insult. Anyone with some Johnson lifters or LS7s ain't going to care about you talking about lifter tick. Now, me personally, I got some lifter tick, I ain't going to lie. But, when I have such a bad exhaust leak, you can't even tell, so we just let her ride.
That's fair enough. Tyler, that's another point you kind of brought up. Unrelated to Coyote, we could kind of veer off for a second on the MT82.
Yeah, the MT82 really is, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. From other people's experiences, it's been a trash transmission. But with the way I drive mine and everything else, I've been trying to blow mine up for the last 2 years, and I've literally the only problem I've had is clutches. Now I blew a slave cylinder out and everything else, and I've got a clutch with 90K on it right now that I'm just kind of too lazy to fix.
Yeah.
But really, that's been my only issue. I've never had the typical like synchro, blown up, grenaded transmission like everybody else, and I drive mine hard.
You know, it may just be a experience thing because there are a lot of young kids who never drove stick driving Mustangs.
Very true.
I mean,
Because I'll be honest, from my perspective, Tyler never had an issue out his. Maybe some lockout, maybe. I haven't drove his hard, so I can't say from experience. But I think the MT82 gets a little worse of a rap than it deserves sometimes.
also with the lockout thing, there's ways to prevent it. Like if you did a clutch, a steel braided clutch line, and a shifter, your lockout problems are going to be pretty much dead
Yeah.
until you need another clutch. Yeah.
I do find it funny that each car maker has like a notoriously terrible transmission, like the MT82, the 4L60, and then of course any transmission that was put in a third gen Ram. Like, it's just funny that every single automaker had one transmission that was just the worst atrocity to be put in a vehicle.
Yeah, really, it is a common thing. And I'd say every manufacturer also has one really good trans. They put one, whether it's, made by the manufacturer or not.
Yeah. So let's kind of reel it in a little bit here. Another thing that got brought up via the Snapchat is the boost situation. Of course, the magic 1,000 horsepower number is so much more capably achieved by a Coyote by just simply adding boost. So I guess I'll start out with Jordan on this side and see what you have through the rebuttal that, given boost, the LS is not seeing numbers of like 1,000.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what Coyotes make, boost for boost compared to an LS. It really depends a lot on the setups, but it seems like Coyotes just take like 30 pounds and they're just going places, and LS doesn't seem to go unless it's been built. But with that being said, I think we can also talk about the NA scene for a second, too, if we're going to mention boost, because,
Okay.
You would figure good boost performance with no mods, you'd have pretty good NA performance. And while I'm not denying the Coyote does not do good NA, the LS clearly has been the king of NA builds. So I think it just depends, because a lot of LSs are lower compression than Coyote. And then, Gen 3 Coyotes are pretty high compression, so I think it's no surprise they see a lot of performance when boost is added. And just, having 4 cams, it's a lot easier because an LS needs a good cam to get, more lift so more air can go in the cylinders, because what's the point of boost if you're not getting a lot of, you can get more air with just the cam.
So the thing about Coyotes is they're just efficient. Like the heads and everything flow so good, but they're choked up from factory to meet emissions. So when you go into boosting it, obviously you're taking emissions out a lot of times. So all you're doing is really opening up the engine. Now, yes, I will agree. LS is an NA monster, 100%. Coyote is not going to compare with an LS on NA. And a common misconception is you throw 30 pounds of boost at a Coyote and everything else. But realistically, if you're not with...
It would be less than 30, obviously. Like, it would not be needed to throw 30 at a Coyote compared to an LS.
Yeah, but if you go into... When we're getting into the boost and everything else, a lot of people that don't know much about engines and everything else in a way that... There's some stuff like you have to do on Coyotes, and a lot of it has to do with Coyote has forged internals from factory other than the pistons. When you get Gen 2 up Coyotes are forged internals. So
they're pretty much like an LT4.
Yeah, they pretty much are. But when you get into that kind of scenario and stuff like that, depending on your power level too, depending on what you're going to push. If you want to push safely, honestly, with a Coyote, I would stay around 10 pounds of boost if you're going stock bottom end pretty much. Now,
Or probably like 700 to 800 wheel.
probably, I'd have to, but if you were going to actually push your car, you treat it, I mean, you treat it like any other engine. You're going to want to do rods and pistons. I would go with a Manley H-beam with a rod and some like Wiseco or some Mall forged pistons or whatever, something along those lines. And another thing people don't understand when they put in cams and Coyotes and stuff like that. Yes, you're helping in a way depending on how much power you're going to go for. But the cams in those cars are so efficient too. Like people are trying to get chop out of a car that's not supposed to chop. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I feel like there's not much need for cams, especially with how much the phaser can do on the Coyotes.
Exactly.
Because you have full LSA control, and that's something that a pushrod engine will never have, and that's something that is awesome in the Coyote platform.
And that's why I've got a full bolt-on E85 car running 17 to 18 miles to gallon on average. And you have, what, Jordan, like 10?
On a good day, I have 12. Now, I'll say the Gen 5 LT engines are a lot better about this, especially in the vets. I see those. Now, I don't know for sure what they get on E85 because I don't own one, and I've never ran a full tank in one. But with 93, they can get like 30 to the gallon interstate. It is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
The C7 is great about mileage. I think it's partly aero and then also that transmission. 7 or 8 speed, man, that thing is going to get mileage.
But I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm biased toward Coyotes. But because there's a lot of things, in my opinion, that Coyotes do better than LS. It's like, if we're talking about just regular daily driving a car, if you're going to daily drive a high horsepower car if you want to, it's going to be the drivability is going to be so much nicer in a Mustang Coyote car versus a pushrod LS, because when you're getting into horsepower on an LS, you're breaking into it, you're putting cams in and everything else.
Yeah, I think you're right there for sure. I can't even refute. That is 100% true. People do not really, and that's something a lot of people don't take into account when they build any car, because we see it a lot. People buy a big ass cam for their Corvette or Camaro. We put it in, tune it. They're like, "Oh man, I love it," and then like 2 weeks later, man, my wife hates this thing. She won't even drive it. We hear that so often.
Yeah, and it's like if you're pushing 700 horsepower out of a Mustang, you can go out to the track, beat the ever living hell out of it, and as long as you don't blow it up, you can drive it home with AC, and you're going to be comfortable the whole time.
I'll say LSs can do that too.
1 second, guys.
You're good. On the whole drivability thing, because if you do build a Coyote, and like when I say build, I mean like you're not doing stock cams, you're gonna lose some drivability, and you lose a lot, and I mean a lot of bottom end torque, it seems, on the Coyotes compared to an LS. Now I do make pretty low. Like my dynograph, I wish I had below 3,000, but I feel like that's pretty irrelevant. But anyways, I put a cam in my car in E85, and even with just the cam, I gained bottom end torque for the most part. I did lose it real low, but when you're at like 4,000, I made way more torque. And then just switching to E85, bottom end torque is not an issue at all for any LS that really has a cam in it. That's something I do see with Coyotes is they do. Usually LSs will tend to get the hit on them, and then the Coyotes roll back in on like roll racing, drag racing. That's just because of the way it is. The only time the LS stays ahead is if he's just pushing some power to weight.
Also, we got to talk about gearing here. People don't understand the gearing aspect of stuff. Like, when you're getting into roll racing or any type of racing, that gear is going to push you. Like, these people are out here and they're like talking about gears don't make a difference and yada, 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 which,
Man, that is a lie.
and exactly. And yes, I will never be, first off, you are a push rod 6'2". That is like, you out displace me by a
1.2.
1.2 liters, man. But also to make up for that, I've got a 373 gear, so I'm gonna hit you on the. I'm gonna get you on the hit still just because of that 373. I'm gonna be able to dump into. If we're doing a 40 roll, I'm gonna be able to dump it into second, and I'm gonna have that RPM to go.
See, but here's my thing with that. We got enough bottom end torque that we're going to be pretty close with you, if not ahead.
Oh yeah, 100%. But to keep up with you, I mean, I'm gonna have that gear to help out too. So the
That
torque
first
is
gear
kind
in the
of.
Mustangs is nasty, though.
And you can talk
Oh
about the
yeah.
extra RPM that the Coyote has to run you down whenever you do get towards the end of the gear.
That is the number one thing that would get me from a Coyote car is not them outshifting me. It's just them staying in that gear longer.
Yeah.
So I make a shift, and of course you're slower when you shift. So I would always get passed as soon as I had to shift. And then they'd get past me, shift, and they still, by then it would always be like Tyler'd still keep the lead on me.
Yeah.
I'd be coming back, but it was done too far.
Every shift is adding time that they are getting ahead. Every single gear.
Another thing with, I'll be honest with you, with Coyote cars, top end is they love that RPM. Now they don't. There's a common misconception on Coyotes though. Like you're not gonna make big power at like 9,000 RPM like everybody thinks you do. I have
There's
my
diminishing returns for sure.
and I have the RPM on my car set up to 8,300 RPM. That is my rev limiter, and when I'm shifting, however, I'm shifting at about 75. I shifted about 7,500 RPM, and when I get into my top gear of the race, that's when I use all the rest of that RPM because like we were talking about, when you shift, you're slowing yourself, like you're losing time right then. So when I'm in fourth gear at my top gear, pretty much, I'm in it and I'm going all the way up. I will wrap that tack, but I am not going to be as fast at that RPM, you know?
Yeah. I think there's definitely some misconception about Coyotes and revving, and definitely LSs with revving. Seems like a lot of people want to rev their LS past 7,200, and if you're running like a shelf cam on a stock bottom end engine, I really don't recommend that at all. RPMs hurt your engine more than anything, really. I mean, everyone knows that, but it's just
Yeah, I agree.
more movement, more reciprocating mass. The faster it goes, it's obviously going to be worse. But I see a lot of people say LSs, they're like, oh, I rev mine out to 73, 7,400. And it's like, bro, you're running a stock shelf stage 3 cam. You're losing power after like 7,000. You're not gaining power. You're losing power slowly, but you're losing it. So really, I'd rather shift at 7 and just do like you do and leave some RPM to go.
That's pretty much that's pretty much the point. Like, people get that misconception, and like I said, it boils down to people that don't know about cars, that don't actually do their research and everything else. Like, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm playing a dangerous game revving that high without oil pump gears. Now, I'm not playing as dangerous, and that's another subject. People think that the oil pump gears in the Coyotes are just completely glass, that you're going to break them under stock power. And I'm not saying that that couldn't happen, because quality control on any vehicle can be trash. I mean, let's just be real. But really, when the oil pump gears start shattering and everything else, is when you're putting a load on them. When I'm talking about load, I'm talking about not turbos type boost. I'm talking about supercharger, belt drive, and you're loading the engine up, because you're putting a strain that on the end of that crank snout, and that's where that's where it's coming in, because you got to think about it. When you're, I'm trying to think of a
No, I
better
know exactly what you're
example.
meaning. When you put a blower belt on, especially if one's too tight, you can actually wear out like your thrust bearing and like your front main, your top main. You can wear that sucker out. I've seen it.
Yeah,
So
because you're
you definitely
pulling
make sure
up
you
on,
get the right belt size. But you're always going to have more stress on that crank just because it's driving other stuff like your AC, your alternator,
yeah,
especially
and
blowers. And blowers are really hard on pistons and cylinder balls and your rod bearings. They're a lot harder than turbos.
and I'll be honest with you, with boost, yes, Coyote likes boost. We know that. That's a
That's like their whole
point,
thing.
but realistically, if you're going to boost a Coyote, stay away from a supercharger. I know a lot of people don't really think about that, but you're putting you're putting more strain on that engine than it needs to be. So get a turbo setup. Get like a
Yeah, if you're
you
like
can
daily driver, turbo is definitely more reliable.
and plus a Coyote. Either way, you're not gonna make up for the bottom end torque. You're gonna want. I mean, that's just the way
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna
would rather
be.
build for the strong point, and
Yeah,
you got a lot of RPM, so you got a lot of room for turbo to spool up.
exactly. You're and when I'm at my when I'm at my peak, when I start a race or anything else, I'm sitting at around 5,500 to 6,000 RPM, and that's when I'm punching it. So if that turbo is not spooled up at 5,500 to 6,000 RPM, I don't. You just put too big of a turbo on it. I
Yeah.
mean that's something, you know. And people always bring that up when you're talking about boost in general. They're like, "Well, I don't want the lag of a turbocharger." I'm like, "Okay, then you know, go get something that's actually going to handle a supercharger better."
Well, I got one more point on LS's that I think really sells the cake on why they're better than Coyote at the moment. Now, I do think Coyote in the future will be a better platform as there's a lot of aftermarket now, and I can only see it getting better. But the thing that still sells LS's for me is one, easy to work on. Two, it has the most aftermarket parts of any. I would say any. I mean, 2J, 350. You know, they might be comparing small block Ford, maybe big block Chevy, big block Ford, but I would say LS is definitely one of the top aftermarket engines of all time. Like in just products alone, seems like everyone's got an aftermarket LS part for sale. But the last thing is how cheap they are to build for the average consumer.
That's one thing I kind of wanted to branch off on. So that is the common argument whenever it comes to aftermarket support. Obviously, LS is always going to have more aftermarket support just because they were ahead of the game. But that leads you to think there's got to be, because of the variety, all those parts can't be good. There's got to be some bad eggs in there. There's got to be some
There
Prancer.
absolutely is.
And that's the thing. Coyote has less support, but the support is there. So that leads you to believe what is available for Coyote is already going to be like almost tested to the point where it's going to work. Because, like I said, just because of the numbers, the quantity of LS, you're more likely statistically to get a bad LS part before you would see a bad Coyote part just because of the smaller market.
Yeah, I
And
can deny that.
not going to throw. Yeah, Josh, you make a very fair point, and I can agree and disagree. So you brought up that LSs are easy to work on. I can agree with that for the
You don't
common
gotta have
person.
cam tools and stuff. It's just easier for a guy with some wrenches and sockets in his garage.
Believe me. Once you get into a Coyote, you don't need cam tools. I can go ahead and assure you of that. You can get an adjustable wrench and everything else just as well as you can anything else. It's literally it looks a lot harder than it actually is. When people start tearing down into it, it's going to be so much easier for somebody a regular person to do it in their garage. These chain drives and everything else, they are made out to be so much more complicated than they actually
I
are.
agree with that for sure.
On a Coyote, you line the dots, buddy. I mean, it's just, LS, it's literally you just got a couple more rotating components than an LS. I mean, you got a chain and it line the dots up. That's all there is to it.
I still think there is more for the LS to be gained OEM. So what I mean is, like, let's say you have an LQ4 or some Gen 4 6.0, whatever. Well, let's say you got LQ4. Okay, so you don't got flat top pistons. You don't have Gen 4 rods. And you got some okay heads. Well, all you got to do is bust that sucker 65 thou over if it's an iron block. If it's an aluminum block, just leave it as and throw LS3 heads on it. Big LS3 cam, Gen 4 rods, and flat top pistons. Maybe mill the heads down. Get like 11.5 to 1. And you're going to be pushing like 530 wheel. And
Yes.
you might have like $3,000 in that thing total.
And I can agree with you on that, but if the longer the Coyote is out, the cheaper the parts are going to get. And I can already see there's another thing. We're talking about if you pull a truck LS out of a truck and you can slap it in a car with minimal mods, you can do the same thing and without sending it to a machine shop with a Coyote, man. With the Coyote, if you go and find a wrecked Coyote truck, you pull it out, you put a Mustang intake on it and Mustang intake camshafts and a Mustang oil filter housing. And legit, there you got a Mustang motor. The only difference in the Mustang motor and the F-150 motor is intake cams, and the oil filter housing. And the front cover, of course. Huh?
Same valves and same heads?
Yep, same valve, same heads. It's literally the same engine. You don't have to change a thing other than the cams and the, like, obviously the front cover because the belt drive's different.
Yeah.
It's the same engine with minimum parts. Like, legit, it's a bolt-in engine that you bolt in a couple things and change camshafts out. That's why I literally just put a Mustang block in an F-150. Because the F-150 had oil consumption issue. It's
understandable.
And the only difference in that is if you go to a dealership right now or any type of parts area, it's going to say you're going to have a different part number, and people get that confused and think, oh, different part number, different part. No, legit, all the different part number is the oil filter housing. You go and get a short block from any dealership and you say, it says, oh, all we got is a Mustang block, but we don't have an F-150 block. Bill, yeah, that's okay. Just 4 bolts, buddy.
Right.
I mean, 4 bolts and a gasket.
I mean, what was that? Finish your thought.
I mean, I can see the argument with LS is definitely cheaper, but
they've been making them since '97, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way ahead of volume.
Most definitely. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you that for about $6,000, you could have a Coyote swap.
I believe that, yeah.
I mean, you go
apart, get an ECU and engine with harness.
Yep.
So you could do that same thing with an LS for about $1,300, though.
Yeah, but then you risk getting into. You go up to an LS, and I know people don't really pay attention to mileage on LSs because they're going to break into them anyway. But you're going to go up there and get some. Because here's another point I'm going to bring up. Everybody claps the LSs out. You go up there and you can, in any town, you're going to find some straight piped, oil burning, oil leaking fucking clap box Silverado with a 5.3 and a cam.
It's because these crackheads and high schoolers, they can't afford no like an EcoBoost truck or a Coyote truck. All they can afford is a 5.3. You know, they don't cost nothing.
And I can agree with that, but then again, you're going to run into those trucks are in a junkyard for a reason.
True.
Usually it's the transmission, though. That 4L60 goes out for that 5.3 goes out. That's
Yeah,
what we want to see. I want to see those trucks in the junkyard because that's someone like me gonna scoop that shit up. If them cylinder walls aren't too out around, we just slapping that bitch back together.
Easy flip.
It is an easy flip, especially if it's aluminum block. You can make a lot of money off the aluminum blocks.
Yeah.
the only Coyote that I'm going to tell you to stay away from is the early Gen 3s.
What about F-150?
That's what I'm saying, the early Gen 3 F-150s.
Oh yeah, 18 to 20 or whatever.
Yep. And it's over a cylinder wall coating. You get piston slap real bad, and you get premature wear of the rings, and it
Let's
starts
talk
consuming
about
oil.
the performance lineup of the LS and Coyote platforms.
Okay. See, that's
In
kind of
particular, like the high performance side, like the LSA, LS9, Voodoo, GT500.
All right.
yeah, that's fair. I do want to bring up the Godzilla later on, so maybe dance around that. I want to talk about the future development next.
Well, and we might need to do a whole separate segment for that because then we get into the LT segment.
Well, I'm not
I'll
opposed
be
to talking
honest
about
with you.
LTs.
Tearing down a Godzilla and looking at a Godzilla internals, and I'm like I said, I'm a Ford fan diehard, but this is not the Godzilla is literally a rebranded knockoff LS.
I
That's
agree.
fair.
I think they make good power for what they are, and that's due to the displacement. But I remember I heard one guy at the track with a Godzilla. He was talking smack about the LS guys. Like, dude, I know some NA LS7s that are making 7-wheel like it's nothing.
I don't want to hear any talk about them trash talking LSs because as a mechanic, I can go ahead and tell you they have the same problem as LS. They got lifter failure out the ass.
Sounds right. And LSs, we done got that figured out. We got a bunch of lifters on the market.
Yup. Of course,
But anyways,
like a
let's get into the like LSA, LS9 versus Voodoo and GT500, LS7. So I guess we'll start with NA because we'll keep it on the track side, the NA engines, like the NCM side here, I guess you could say. And I think the LS7 overall, I think it's a better platform than the Voodoo, but my thing with that is that's because there's a lot more aftermarket, and it seems like everyone knows what the LS7 is capable of at this point.
yeah, but then, and I'm not gonna say that the Voodoo doesn't have its issues either, but with the
Yeah,
LS7, you're gonna have the cylinder wall issues that y'all do have and stuff like that too.
yeah, I agree. And you also have the intake valve issue too if you have the OEM valves.
And I'm not gonna
Not here.
the early Voodoos had some issues as well because they were dropping valves. I mean, it's like they lightened up, but they got that figured out with the later gen Voodoos.
Yeah, so I think we should just talk about maybe not the downsides as much because everyone seems to know the downsides and the fix to them because everyone wants an LS7 or Voodoo, it seems. So the big thing for the LS7 for me is the power. Stock, it's only 505. It's not a lot out of the box, but it has a great rotating assembly. It has forged crank, forged rods, and hyper-eutectic pistons. But in particular, the rods, they're titanium. I mean, you felt them the other day. They don't weigh nothing, man. That's why the LS7 revs like, I think it's 7,400. But I've seen them go to 8K on those rods and a different piston.
On the contrary, about the Voodoo though, the Voodoo has forged rods, forged pistons. It has a flat plane crank, and it makes 520 crank from factory.
I haven't seen a lot of built ones. Is the problem from my perspective is
That's
I just don't know what they're totally capable of in A.
I don't either, and that's the problem. We don't see you're not really seeing many GT350s built because like
People
we're
just
gonna
track
get
them like they are, it seems.
Yep, and we're going to get on, like we were talking about before. The LS7 has been around a little bit. I want to say,
It's
hasn't
been
the
around since
LS7?
'09.
Yeah, so it's been around
Or
longer
no,
than the
it's been around since like
GT350.
'07.
So yeah, it's been around a lot longer than the Voodoos. So these people with the Voodoos, I don't know what it is, but they're keeping it. They pretty much keep them in their garages and they
Yeah, it
take them
seems
to the
like
track.
they're probably waiting for warranty to run out because they're probably still just under that warranty. If aren't they? Like, what year do they start coming out?
They started coming out in, I want to say, 16 or 17.
Yeah, so 17 to now is 5 years,
Yeah, so they're just out of
6 years.
warranty
So
now.
yeah, I mean they're just getting out of warranty. So maybe we'll see more, but for now, I think the LS7 is the more dominant track engine, just because it's dry sump from factory. I don't know if the GT350 is. Is it dry sump?
No, it's not a dry sump.
See, that's the big problem. That
But you're
when
not
you're
going to
doing high
really.
G's and lots of sloshing of oil in the pan, dry sump is the way to go.
The thing about it, though, is with the Voodoo, you don't really have many oil starvation cases unless it, like the early ones. The early ones had a problem with it rattling the oil filter off. Let's just be real. Because when you're in the high RPMs, that flat plane crank is not gonna be the most smooth on the engine. It rattles. I mean, so
Yeah, a
they had a
90
problem
degree
with.
engine would definitely balance out easier from my
So,
like it's better balanced from a detonation like the opposed pistons, but I can see it having some vibrations.
So if there was a problem with them vibrating the oil filters off, and there was a fix for that. I cannot remember the fix at the moment. Um,
Probably a
but
different
either
housing.
way, yeah, I want to say it was. But either way, we want to look at it is right now the Voodoo is kind of undercover right now. People don't are not really modding them. I've seen one to two Voodoos that I've seen that people have boosted and everything else, but they're not modding them for the track like they should be. The car is not. People are doing stupid stuff. They're trying to make track cars straight line cars. Let's just be real.
Oh, it happens all the time with the Z28 Camaros. I understand.
So you're taking these cars that are made for cornering and made to hit the track,
Yeah, why
and you're
not just buy a
trying,
base model V6 and swap it at that point? Is what I don't understand.
or just buy a base GT car, man.
That's
Just
a,
buy. I mean, but they're not really modding them for the track like they should be. I've seen a couple of them that are actually modded for the track. But another subject, if we're going to get into like the LSA car versus the
GT500.
Predator, yeah, the Predator.
Well, let's kick it up to LS9 because I think we're gonna need that.
All right.
The LSA just ain't gonna hold its weight. We know that.
So if we're gonna like the Predator is a beast on any aspect you want to put it on. There was one that's running a header setup and a header E85 and a pulley running around town, and he's over 1100 horsepower to the wheel,
Jeez.
and that DSG in that car is just spot on. That dual clutch trans,
Yeah,
I called it.
we can't deny that.
I mean, it's it's made by Tremec. As far as all my research has come up on, it's made by Tremec. It's a 7-speed auto dual clutch, and just from the experience driving a stock one, it just unlike any other car I've ever driven. It's responsive. Everything is comfortable. I mean, you got a car that you can take out, dominate a track day, and drive home with AC. AC
Yeah,
and
I
music.
don't see that as much with. I will say because we're talking LS here. I think if we had LT, there'd be more taste. But for the LS9 is your peak supercharged engine, and it's a good engine. It's reliable, but it just ain't putting out the numbers that GT500 is going to put out.
No.
And that's kind of in part due to only having a 2.3 liter blower. I wish it had a 2650. And, GM could have put a bigger cam and done more, but they didn't. I think it's probably because they knew that was enough for the C6. Because once we got to the C7, it really bumped up in power, that 650 wheel. And then even the ZR1 to 750. But it's just not, I can't see a C6 ZR1 competing with a new GT500 in a straight line. I can maybe see it, I can definitely see it doing the corners on one, but I just can't see it pulling in straight at all.
Agreed.
I don't know how well the GT500s actually track in corner, but if I had to guess, I'm going to say the C6 is probably going to do it a little better.
Yeah.
The Eaton on the GT500 is only a 2650.
That's all you need, man. I mean, that's the standard aftermarket blower size. You look like a LSA, and this is why I don't even mention it. It's because it's a 1.9 liter. And what's funny, though, is the LT4s are a 1.7. We got a little echo. Oh, never mind. It's good.
But another thing that I want to bring up, just car for car.
Yeah.
I hate this. You cannot compare a Mustang with a Vet, man.
Yeah,
Vets
that's
are
fair.
on their whole nother level.
Yeah, that's fair. I think all cases it should be Camaro versus Mustang. Yeah.
The suspension and aero is just leagues ahead. Like, the C5 was made in the 90s, man, and that double wishbone suspension is just, it still works today. Like, it is still a great suspension setup.
That's like saying if we're allowed to just pull cars down that the manufacturer made, that's like saying okay, let's pit a Ford GT against a Camaro. Like that's not realistic.
The only thing that can go up against a Ford GT is probably a C7 ZR1.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the most common thing to do is just Camaro Mustang.
Fitch and Camaro didn't get a lot of power.
Well,
really didn't.
Well, the Fitch and Camaro made the same as a Gen 2 Coyote. It made 426 cranks from the factory.
Well, I'm talking about the boosted versions.
Oh, I got you.
The Z28's cool, but a GT350 is more of a competitor to a Z28. There is no GM Camaro competitor to that GT500.
Yeah, while we're on the topic of performance engines and other vehicles, I'm wondering if Mustang has an answer to the Cadillac CTS-V with the LSA in it. Does Mustang have something like a wagon sedan with a blower in it?
No, not at the moment.
That
I don't
sucks,
think that'll ever come.
Because that's like one
agree.
of the coolest Cadillac. I'm not a big Cadillac guy just because Escalade's cool. I'll never be able to afford one. Why would I want one? But the CTS-V, especially the wagons, pull up on me in that. I'm checking that out.
They still ain't that fast though. Is the problem?
Yeah, well they're heavy too. They're luxury cars. Whenever
now, if you want to talk about the new V's are a force to be reckoned with, without a doubt.
Are you talking about the Denali
V's? The Blackwing is ridiculous, dude. It has a ZR1 blower on it. It's 750 wheel.
Oh my God.
The ZR1 is advertised at 750 crank. They make like 780 wheel, dog. I don't know who is doing the numbers on that shit. We spoke to the engineers, because we're by NCM and Busby used to work there. We got to talk to some of the engineers one day. They know it makes more than 750.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. You got to talk to one of the engineers there.
I think with that type of car, like the CTS-V and everything else, that the CTS-V is kind of its own category. That's something that Chevrolet, GM has always been into doing kind of the weird cars, and sometimes they work. I mean,
Cadillac's weird. It's GM's just like, it seems like they're almost becoming their new performance division since they pulled out Corvette from racing. It's just Cadillac racing now.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
mean,
kind of wild to see.
we are talking about the company that's throwing superchargers on Escalades. I mean,
And then you got the V6 twin turbo and some of the Blackwings too. And I've rode in one of those personally. They are wicked for what they are.
yeah, agreed. I think Ford, if they to respond to something like that, they need to come out with a rear-wheel drive EcoBoost car. I mean,
Yeah.
But
That isn't a
if we're
2.3.
that isn't a 2.3. But on the subject of kind of in the same category is like Ford Explorer STs, but we're not going to get
I
on
was
that
wanting to
because
mention
it's
the 3-liter. I was like, why does the Mustang not get the 3-liter? It's such a good engine.
it really is. But I'm happy that Ford is sticking true to like the V8 platform.
I can
Honestly.
respect that.
Big respect for that.
I mean, it's kind of like they're staying true to their pony car.
Yeah.
Out of all the companies, man.
Yeah.
And
Despite
Chevrolet,
the F-150, like you said, it's almost exclusive to own a Coyote. Like you said, you have to have a pony car to be in that exclusive group of I own a 5.0 Coyote. You know.
and despite everything that anybody says, Ford has never stopped production of their sports car.
Fair. Very fair.
I mean, during the 3-valve era, we're going to talk about the 3 valves. During the 3-valve era,
ILSs, and Ford's like, yeah, we'll keep pumping them bitches out.
yeah, but during the early years of the 3-valve, man, they didn't have any competition, so they didn't have to push out anything.
Well, I wouldn't
Ford,
say that. There was Pontiac still coming out with G8s and GTOs.
Yeah, but
420 wheel, 400 wheel.
yeah. But like, it's always been Ford versus Chevy, Camaro versus Mustang. That's been the battle of the two since the beginning of them.
Yeah,
Let's
but
just be real.
you can argue though whenever Camaro did take that break, they came out with the biggest horsepower jump we had ever seen whenever they went from the 4th gen to the 5th gen. So we weren't starved with this slow ramp into power with the Mustang where, we're slowly getting into the power numbers that we're at today. Instead, it was like an instant jump, like here's 440 to the crank, from the factory, as opposed to the 4th gen Camaro making no telling how much, probably like 200.
300 and it's like 350, I think, for the LS1.
Yeah, there you go.
And then it was 404 for the LS6, I want to say.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And on top of when they come out with the 5th gen, they done away with the straight axle and did a IRS and everything else. And that's the best thing that Ford did for the Mustang is doing the IRS controversy. Like, despite the controversy on that, I know a lot of people hate on the IRS, but it's, I mean,
those 8.8s are tough, man. You can't kill them.
No, Ford's always had the rear end pretty well down.
Yeah.
But I will say, like I said, I'm biased toward Coyotes, but I do like an LS. I just hate that the Coyote is so slept on anymore. If you think about it, a lot of people just diss it because their grandpa had an LS.
Everyone acts like a Scattle outrun one, and I just don't understand that.
Like, yeah, exactly. But it's like we talked about earlier today. Coyote is like the Honda of the domestic cars. Everybody slept on the Hondas. Everybody hated on the Hondas until, the aftermarket support started hitting. And people are stuck in their old ways, and we got to think about it. Technology is going to keep moving forward, and Coyote is a prime example of that. We went from Ford's pretty well always did since the early 2000s and like late 90s. They've had overhead cam. They were onto something with overhead cams. And then
GM had it with the LT and the C4 Corvette, but they decided to go push on
Yeah, but that was kind of an exclusive thing. They didn't really make that many of the door overhead cams and that. And as Ford has been making the door overhead cams, and they've been able to perfect it over the years on that. And the technology, yes, my car is not going to make the power that yours makes in a, but your NA car is not going to be able to make a trip to Florida comfortably as in my car. You know,
I would argue otherwise. The only time my car really is uncomfortable is parking lot cruising and red light. The highway is perfectly fine.
not to throw shots, Jordan, but I do remember somebody getting out of the car in Gatlinburg with a red face because of a fuel smell.
That was because I had
uh, but yeah, so I mean,
So we can kind of
I
come to
just
some conclusions here. Tyler, you kind of wrapped up. If you want to hit any more points on, I just kind of want to wrap this up as why you prefer Coyote and why Jordan prefers LS, and you've kind of already wrapped around it. So if you want to just add any like final points to that aspect of why you choose Coyote versus LS, here you go.
man, the reason why I'm more Coyote versus LS is I'm the RPM. I love the rev. I love the handling versus that, and I don't have to deal with I don't have to deal with the push rod. I don't have to deal with a lifter or around that area. I got tappets, I've got cams, and yes, it is more expensive to mod my car on certain things. Like, yes, internally wise, it's going to be a little bit more expensive, but the parts are all similar. People don't get that. And if you've got the start of it, a set of rods for my car is like $800 versus like LS's. I mean, yes, you got kind of the off-brand rods, but I mean, if you were to go buy the same brand rods and everything, you might pay a little bit more or a little bit less. I meant, but in all reality, it's all about preference. I'm not going to hate on the LS as bad. And only reason I get tired of hearing the LS standpoint on people is people are sitting here trying to compare, oh, I got an LS in my Corvette. It's like, yeah, and your Corvette is made of wood, and you're going to talk smack on a full-size car. So, I mean, we can't even talk about that.
Yeah.
But plus, I daily my car. My car is cheap. I mean, realistically, versus anything else. If I was to put my car on 93, I'm getting 25 to 28 mile to gallon, and it's like Econobox numbers, but I'm still making 450 wheel horsepower.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't got to break into my engine to make that power either.
the only thing that compares on that is 6-gen Camaro LT engines, but I think they're in a league of their own, so I can't.
Yeah, because
Say
then
LS is there.
you lose the whole saving in the pocketbook situation whenever you start talking about LTs because
Absolutely.
so that argument's kind of devoid.
That's why I just leave them alone. They're
You
they're
get what you pay
similar,
for.
but man, they are a lot different at the same time.
Yeah,
But
definitely a lot
anyways,
more technology with the LTs.
I'll give my reason I preference LS, and obviously, I like Coyote too. I like them all. I like anything more than a Dodge domestic.
Agreed.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yes, sir.
Not like the Hellcat or 5.7 Hevy's not bad, but
I own a sewing machine 4.7.
we live in the
4.8.
South. We don't live up north where all the Hemis roam around.
I don't want takeover cars.
No, thank you.
Anyways, obviously, I done stated my main reasons for LS. The plentiful aftermarket parts, the ease of getting a new engine. If you blow your shit box up, you can just go Like, if you got a Gen 4 engine blow up, you can throw a Gen 3 in that bitch in just a conversion box and run stock ECU. Like, you can do all kinds of stuff. So there really is a lot of aftermarket and stock support for the LS. And I don't think anyone can deny it. It's well known. And then, who doesn't love chop? Like,
yeah.
you can't hate it when you hear just like, wah, wah, wah.
People
Like,
don't
you hear
even
that
know
shit.
anything about cars. They're like looking over at the red light. Like,
Man, I remember when my shit was straight piped, I never got so many like people talking to me at a gas station until I cammed my car. It was like a 30% chance an NPC was coming up to me.
oh my god. That's the same way. I mean, my car still is straight piped. Like, especially on night shift at Kobe, dude. I'd have like crackheads like coming to me like, "Hey man, why does it sound like that?" Be like, "MCR tuning and a cam." Be like, "Yes sir."
I just tell them it's a V6 Pro Chill.
I gotta do that advertising. By the way, if you need an LS, a Coyote, or basically anything tuned, hit up MCR Tuning. Shameless plug, but it's there.
We can tune it. Maybe not like a real crazy Coyote. We still getting experience, but we'll gladly take on any like PD blower NA Coyote.
Best LS tuner in Eastern U.S., in my opinion.
And if you
I would say all of Kentucky.
I would say Eastern
if you need
U.S.
Is James Short? Is he in Kentucky? I know he teams for BTR, but he's in Carolina, ain't he? I feel like he's in Carolina. So that's why I'd say MCR best in Kentucky. Maybe not East Coast, because James Short really, as much as I hate to say our competition is good, man, he has the drag game down.
Yeah. Well, as I'm starting
if
to see
you need
more...
a Coyote work,
who is it?
if you need Coyote work, you know who to send it to, though.
Yes, sir.
Greenwood Ford, ask for Tyler.
Yep.
Or just ask for Tyler outside of Greenwood for you. You know, Tyler is definitely no stranger to side work.
So I think we should do one more thing here.
Okay.
So we got to choose one car that we would own from the other brand.
Okay.
That's
That's an easy one for me.
I'm curious. I don't know what Tyler would choose. Or Josh, really. I don't know what y'all would choose.
What do you
mean? CTSV wagon, buddy.
That's
You got deep pockets, don't you?
Hey, you said choose any car that I would own from the other brand. We weren't talking about price tag, okay?
See, that's
fair enough.
That's where mine would deviate, is if we're talking about price point. Because if we're talking about my pocketbook right now, I'm definitely going with that Crown Victoria. Because you ain't going wrong with no Crown Vic. That's take the homies
Ranger,
out.
Dog?
Nah, dude, you take the homies out in the Crown Vic, go do some burnouts, build a burnout car.
You got a bed.
Nah, dude, I've had trucks my whole life. I'm done with trucks.
You throw a recliner in that bed and a hardtop cover, it might as well be a van.
But if we're talking about unlimited price range, I would definitely get an S550, just primarily because of Tyler's car. Tyler's car is one of the cleanest cars. The only thing Tyler's car is missing it for me, and I might be biased. It might be more of a drift car look according to Mustang communities, but I love the RTR grill. Man, they're nice.
Can't lie.
It's growing on me. I just don't want to be rolling around like a spaceship. But if we're talking about price-wise, what I got in my pocketbook right now from the other brand, I can't afford a Chevy Spark. I ain't even going to say, I ain't gonna lie.
Homie can't afford a pit car.
S10, dog. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, or Colorado.
True that.
I love a Colorado.
Yeah, so I'll get obviously, I'm going to choose a 1991 E250 Express.
Huh?
Best van ever made.
Oh, a van, okay.
Yeah.
Is that
with a recliner in the back?
Is that a front engine car? Like, is it, or is it like half and half, like half in the front?
What do you mean?
Like the engine bay. Is it one of those big cargo vans with like half the engine like behind the firewall, or not really, but
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Like you open the hood, and you see like half of it.
Hey, that inline 6, dog, that 300 is It's one clip on Jacob's dog. He got that quick disconnect.
God,
Oh, okay.
that must be nice for a Ford Tech.
Nah, for
Oh,
real,
yeah.
what I would have though is PP2, Gen 2 Coyote, premium if I could, but that doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, I can agree with that. It's just like the cars around the S550, just like, God, they're so good. Especially like the GT500 with like the all the like trim and everything that goes on it with the diffuser and everything. It just looks so good.
And what about one car from the manufacturer you own now? What would you own?
I'm not sure I understand.
Honestly,
What? Do what now?
if you own something like you own a Chevrolet, if there was one thing from Chevrolet that you could pick, what would you pick?
Oh, I
Like
got you.
any GM or like Ford Motor Parts, Lincoln, whatever. You
Yeah,
know.
I got you now.
Mine,
Yeah.
I think y'all already know. Sebring Orange, 18 Grand Sport, 7-speed manual.
We already know you've already got your New Balance on in your wish list. Like,
I got the Nike socks to my knees.
is someone buying you the jean shorts for Christmas?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of content. I'm very biased. I've got what I want. I've got the performance pack Gen 2 car. I mean, but if I was kind of,
This
If
is
I was
money
gonna-
ain't an option, bro. You get whatever you want.
I know that's what I was about to say. Man, I want a GT500.
I kind of figured that's what you'd say.
Yeah, can't go wrong.
Not
That's
at all.
probably what I'd have if I got a Ford. I could get it.
Because at the end of the day, you know, all the GT500 is a Gen 2 S550 that's been built to the max. Like
Do
legit.
they not have high pressure fuel pump and all that?
I mean, yes, as far as I remember right, because it's been a minute since I worked on it. But no, I'm talking about body wise. Body wise, Ford realized, hey, 15 through 17 body is kind of the meanest looking. That if you ever look, any 2020 or up, it does not have the Gen 3 front end. It has the Gen 2 front end. My headlights was a direct fit into a GT500.
Nice.
That's the same with the GT350s too. 18 up didn't take
That's
the
what
18 up.
Camaro did with the Z01. It always got the front end of the early Camaro.
Yeah, because it's like the more the years go on, like 18 up cars just look a little bit more docile in my opinion.
I
They
agree.
don't look as aggressive.
See, most people say the 14 to 15 Camaros look more aggressive than the 10 to 13. And I get that. But the Z01 bumper is the best OEM, I think.
Agreed. I think
Cut out all that plastic and exposed intercooler. That's
Oh,
the
yeah.
plan, dog.
Oh, yeah.
I think the performance pack bumpers of the Gen 2s are spot on.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can wrap it up. I think we had a good debate discussion here, and I hope whoever was listening learned something. And if you have anything to say, maybe we can revisit this with some new comments from the audience, because I'm sure everybody's got
Maybe
a
we
hot
could
take.
visit it with a GM tuner and a Coyote tuner. That would be really interesting.
That'd be insane.
That would be cool.
Like we'd have Matt go against someone.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, guys, with that being said, Tyler, I really appreciate you coming back on. It's always a treat to have you join us here on the podcast, and we hope to see you again for sure.
For sure. I appreciate y'all having me on. It's been fun. And like I said, I like the LS. I like them all. I'm just biased toward Coyote because I don't.
You ain't come out the closet yet, we know.
Oh, okay. I'm not a Mopar owner, okay?
Okay, fair. Understandable.
All right,
Bad
guy.
thing about it is, you
What is it?
you wrecked. I was gonna mess with him. He wrecked his before I wrecked mine.
Ha! Oh, that's
Damn.
hit him where it hurts.
Yes, sir.
Josh wrecked
Holster
his
did.
too. Both of ours have been wrecked, and they lived.
I
So that
wrecked.
speaks good about the Camaro platform.
I think I wrecked mine before you even had yours, probably.
You messed yours up.
Yeah, mine was like
Worse than mine.
$15,000 worth of damage. Yeah, all undercarriage.
You know what he did, Tyler?
No.
You know that I'm not sure how familiar you are with my side of Bowling Green, but if you're going down Nashville Road, like you're going towards my work, like you're going towards Franklin, there's like this big hill that you go up, and then you go down, and then you can turn right to go to my trans park. Well, it was raining pretty bad. And I was going up the hill, like normal. I wasn't getting on it, wasn't doing. I was literally behind somebody, and whenever my car went to downshift, it broke the tires loose, and my car did a full 360 off the hill, which is leading up to a bridge, and my car landed on top of a pile of rocks. Like, I was literally doing a 360 in air and landed on top of a pile of rocks. Subframe gone, all the front suspension gone, my wheels were bent, my brakes were bent, everything was bent front end.
You're lucky it didn't get totaled.
Yeah, it's like $15,000 with it. It was like a few $100s. I think it was like $1,000 from being totaled.
I smacked a deer at 70.
That's a good one.
You know what I like about our group? Our cars are daily drivers, man. Like we drove them.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've put 100K on my car. I've got 100K of seat time in my car.
I don't know. Mine's like a semi-daily. I would drive mine on like Fridays.
Oh, you drove quite a bit.
I would drive it on Fridays, and anything during the weekend I was driving it, which was usually almost every weekend going to like a Cars and Coffee or something. I might have put like 30,000 on mine.
We got one in the spring.
What is it?
My car got driven in. I drove mine in that last big snow that we had. I drove it from work to Smiths Grove on I-65, crab walking it up the interstate.
Dude, I wish I could have sent y'all a video of me climbing the hill to my house.
Oh, I believe it.
I was on Flicks, though. I was on radials.
Jordan, what were you saying about a Cars and Coffee?
We got hit one in spring.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say y'all were putting on one at the tuning shop.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I want to go to one out of town for sure. I'd probably want to go to Clarksville. The Nashville one?
Me, Tyler, Ashton.
Nashville one, though, it's kind of uppity, though. People with their supercars thinking there's something.
I just miss going to it.
Yeah.
It's a fun trip.
I remember that first time we went, Tyler, and that dude tried to tell me I had to do an oil pump on my Camaro when I came to, or I was going to blow it up.
Oh my God, bro, yes. Or
You know what? That is one of I can't believe I forgot that. That is the number one thing I hate to hear about LS's. You got to throw a melling in it. I ain't never seen one OEM oil pump fail.
well, with the Coyote oil pumps, put fucking gears in it and call it done. Like, I'm so sick and tired. Oh, your oil pump is your weak point. We fucking know. Like, oh my God. You'll cause a crowd killer. Oh wow. So original. You've seen a couple V6 cars bounce their shit up the sidewalk, and now all Mustangs are crowd killers.
I think the Mopars are the crowd killers.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Mopars are just getting the worst rap for like car guys between the shutdowns and the hitting crowds. It's just like the Mopars are really putting a target on their backs.
It's like every time I go on Instagram, it's a new takeover with a Challenger or Charger just laying into the crowd.
You got people hanging out the windows. It's like, it ain't a good look.
Let's just be real here. The car scene is being killed by V6 owners and fucking Mopars.
Fair.
Jeez.
That's fair.
Mopars are getting all I hate today.
Well, it's the truth, dude. It's not the car itself. I'm not even gonna Like, I got a buddy with a Challenger, and I give him hell constantly. But it's the people that drive them, man. Like, you got these takeovers is what screwed us, honestly. These takeovers are what screwed the car scene up for everybody. Like, when you see a sports car or hear a loud car coming in a cop's eyes, now that they've seen, oh, these guys are doing donuts in the intersection, they're going to automatically tie us to that because we are car people.
Yeah, you're very right.
True that.
So we're getting eyes on us more than anybody. We can't even go out and street race like we used to anymore.
No, not a chance.
And you get caught street racing anymore, you're automatically jail time. Your car's getting impounded, you're going to jail.
Yep. And your car will forever be targeted by that police department.
Yup.
Me with BGPD.
For real. That's immediately what I thought of.
Too, buddy.
Anyways,
White Camaro by Ford? Yep. That's you.
We're going to wrap this up and throw it to a quick outro, and we will see you guys in the next one. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as we did. If you did, hop on over to our social media, give us some follows, give us some likes, and be sure that you're watching out for all our future podcasts. We've got a New Year's episode coming up. I want to again thank Tyler for coming onto the podcast and having this debate with Jordan. And if you missed it, last week's episode was absolutely insane. We had Brian Tooley Racing on our podcast. So if you missed that, what are you doing? Go back, go watch that one. That one's insane. It's incredible that Brian came on our podcast. Go check that out. Go check out what's to come. You guys aren't going to want to miss a single thing. And again, I want to extend a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays from the Cars and Health Bars podcast to all of your friends and families. And with that being said, guys, we will catch you in the next one. Merry Christmas.